What is going on? Welcome to Ryan and Brian Talk Sports, presented by Pickett Sports and Boom Fantasy. Sorry, I forgot how to talk for a second, but as always, Ryan props. We got a lot of games on today.
Yeah,
No
man.
NBA, which I think is kind of nice. I saw you killing it in the NBA slates, but I actually took this weekend off the NBA just because me and Will Hill were talking a little bit. It becomes a lot more guessing than betting at times against the end of the year, but I took it as a blessing in disguise. But I saw you betting on Shake Milton and some other random insert NPC, whatever you want to call them. But it's appreciate that you were able to do that because I just took the week off NBA and kind of
Definitely
took
not
it
a
as it
bad idea.
was.
I went really light on NBA, actually. I didn't really want to, but I did. Yesterday
Yeah,
was really tempting to do some really stupid degen shit, but we hung strong. I laddered Shake Milton points. He got two of the three rungs, and then I just moved on. I meant to play Peyton Pritchard triple double, but then I forgot. So
yeah. I mean, and then who was the guy that dropped 40 for the Grizzlies, the G League
Lofton, yeah, Kenny
wherever.
Lofton.
Yeah, Lofton. Yeah, I think
That's
it's funny. I actually
too
was a little
bad.
mad
Uh,
Friday. Friday after I went to Phillies opening day, I was watching the game against the Hawks at a bar, and I had a free bet that has to be used on basketball. And like towards the late end of the game, I wanted to use on the Sixers money line just for the fun of it, and it kept locking. And then by the time it unlocked, it went from like plus 600 to like plus 150 or plus 200. It dropped too much where I couldn't see myself in your free bet on it, but I was a little mad that I missed that.
yeah, pain. Well, hey, we're fresh off of arguably the most miserable sweat watching Dylan Cease today. Me and Brian both caught his 5.5 at minus 102 line yesterday. We posted it. I'm sure you slept like a baby knowing that we had this sitting in our back
It was
pocket.
minus 500, dude, for six. It was minus
Yeah,
500
yeah,
this morning for
yeah,
six.
yeah.
I wanted this to be known. I hope by some act of God he sees this. Dylan Cease, stop with the caffeine, man. Like
Hold on,
I
hey, I missed this. I didn't have my sound on or something. What are we talking with the caffeine stuff? Catch
Yeah.
everybody up on that.
So last week he said that the reason he had a lack of control and had issues finishing counts was because he was over caffeinated. And
Okay,
then in
gotcha.
between he struck out the side in the first inning and it cuts to him in the dugout just chugging a Red Bull.
Oh, really?
And then he came out and he had no control the rest of the game.
That's a
And I was like,
fact.
dude, how do you say you're over caffeinated and that's the reason you're having trouble with your pitches? And then just chug the Red Bull and then just lose all sense of hell.
That's
Uh,
that's wild that he does that. I mean, I guess teams can't really do much about that, but like I don't think I'd want my players doing, especially like a pitcher. It's such like a
I
finicky
mean,
thing that you have to
so
accomplish.
I'm a guy when it comes to caffeine, I do it for pre-workout before lifts, but not before like a run. Like caffeine's like there's certain things with caffeine where if you're having an intense lift or this or that, it's one thing. But for cardio or like performance-based stuff, it's not good. Like when I was playing a game in I was in I was in Bermuda Islands and everybody was we played the Bermuda national team and everybody was like doing pre-workout at halftime and I was just like, dude, is this like it was like players I was not super familiar with playing with and they were all chugging pre-workout at halftime. Like, you want to scoop? And I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I don't is this like an international thing? Because I've never heard of that. But they were like they swore by it. I would be losing my mind if I was on that much
Yeah.
caffeine trying to perform an athletic base. But yeah, so that is something that Dylan Cease has to work on, especially just because I think from a public viewpoint, whether or not it's true, whether or not it's caffeine, this or that, how do you say that and then openly drink Red Bull in the dugout? You know what I mean? Like, how do you? That's like saying, sometimes you don't do what you're supposed to do, and other people should know about it. Like it's like even if he was to drink it, why would you do it so openly during a game? I feel like
Really good question.
if you're gonna make public statements and then do that, at least put it in a Gatorade bottle or like put it in a like something. Yeah, so that was interesting. He got there, but whatever. We move on to the night slate. How many plays do you have in the MLB?
Sort of five, we'll call it. Three or
Holy hell, I'm
three
at
or
three.
somewhat of a group together, which we'll discuss a little further here soon.
Someone in the group chat, someone in the chat says esports players are on pre-workout too. That's different. Esports is different. I mean, you're sitting down. I mean, if you were playing a sport and you're hopped on my caffeine, I just don't see it. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, yeah, I will say that until I die. I'll take that to the grave. Maybe like if you want some ammonia or some like smelling salts in a halftime, if you're like feeling drowsy, but caffeine just does not necessarily work with high cardio output. So Dylan Cease needs to figure that out. But yeah,
Yeah,
we can move on.
that's pretty interesting because you texted me about that earlier today, and I had no idea what you were
I
referring
tweeted it
to.
because I was so mad about it. Like, how do you outwardly say, "Oh, I'm struggling because I'm too caffeinated," and then just like, and he wasn't, but in my head, he was like shotgunning Red Bulls. Like that's how I saw it. Like I saw it as he was just like some kind of you know monster in the dugout. But yeah, he was drinking some. But we have a lot of games today, and
Yes, we do.
a lot of new series, which is fun. And you have 5 plays. I have 3 plays. I'll let you go first, so that
Sounds
way we
good.
have a nice little tit for tat going.
Sounds good. I'll rip off three at the same time.
Oh
If you're in the
wow!
Discord, you're pretty familiar with this by now. So something I've been doing so far this season, or let me backtrack slightly. DraftKings added hits plus RBIs plus run props on DraftKings. BetMGM has them as well. I don't personally use BetMGM because of limits, but they are an option there as well. I've seen people play these on Prize Picks for a little while now, and I've always died for these props. And my thought was always, I want to find like a stack of 3 guys in a lineup versus a bad pitcher and play those props. And I don't parlay them; I take them all straight. But there's somewhat correlation here. Like if your guy gets a single or even a double, and then the following guy gets a single, he gets the hit plus the RBI plus the other guy scores the run. I mean, you can cash 2 plays on one swing, and it's been an absolute blast. So I kind of went back and recapped a little bit how I've done with this because this is almost like a trial run, I guess, of whether or not I thought, I wanted to see how successful this would be because this is a new market I've never necessarily dabbled in prior. But I posted 28 of them. We've hit 18, so 64%. The odds have ranged from plus 125. I've taken it as far as minus 140. I think I've taken minus 140 once. One of these is minus 140 today, so a little more juice than I typically like. But I think with the trio, it's a ton of fun, and B, it's been really successful. So without further ado, I went with Cedric Mullins, Adley Rutzman, and Ryan Mountcastle for the Orioles.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're talking small sample sizes, but bear with me. But Mullins is batting 364 versus lefties so far this year. Adley's batting 500. Mountcastle's batting 400. This is about 10, 11 bat sample size, but still enough to get me excited, still enough to get my attention. I kind of like this spot. Naturally, I was kind of gravitated to it. Sears got hit around pretty bad last game. He gave up 8 hits, 3 runs. He had a 4.69 ERA last season, so he's not really frightening anybody. The Orioles have a 4.5 over under run total. So I think they're in theory set up to have a pretty good offensive night. The weather's solid. If you look at Ballpark Pal, it might make it look pretty bad, but I mean, it's 61 degrees around first pitch, winds towards left field with no rain concerns or anything like that. So what I've been doing is I've been putting a half unit on each. I actually bumped it up and went crazy today and went 0.6 instead of 0.5
Oh
on each.
shit, this is
I know
crazy.
we're high rolling. So all in all, it's a 1.8 unit risk, and I've been doing 1.5, but the results have been good enough, and I'm really encouraged. And honestly, I'm having a fucking blast with these props and doing it like this. So I've stacked 9. I've had 9 stacks of 3 guys, and we've profited on 6 of 9 of them. We did have one 0-3. Fucking Mets got me one time against
Yeah,
Trevor
what's
Rogers.
up with the Mets, man? Jeez,
Yeah, I don't
they
know.
can't. I mean, I'm okay with it, I guess, but their offense is not great. Same with the Braves. Very weird start for them. But yeah, I
Yeah,
like. I've been seeing you do that a lot, and I appreciate it. I think it's very nice, especially if you think you found a guy to attack. Like you see some guys like Patrick Corbin or some of these other pitchers that are just not ideal, that are just kind of trying out there. And I think you can attack it in a way where you can at least cover yourself for 2 out of 3. So I do like the thought process with these.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I can't say it enough. I've had such a blast with these. Swept 3 out of 9, 2-1 on most of them. So a 2-1's a pretty small profit, especially when they're closer to the juice. But I've cashed 2 in the first inning, several occasions. So if nothing else, we're having a ton of fun, and then it's been pretty profitable so far as well. I'm not sure I'll ever quite take this to a 1-unit play because I think risking 3 units on one offense is
I think
a
not
bit
to cut you,
much.
yeah, I would say I think not to cut you off, but I think that's a lot because there is times where no matter how much you like something, even though they're different plays, it's the same angle, and to commit 3 units to the same angle is kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So sitting at 0.6, I'm pretty much entirely torn on what to do as far as unit size on these bets. I may kind of just coast around the 0.5 or 0.6, maybe 0.7. We'll see. I'll kind of keep you guys posted as the times change. If they prove to continue to be this profitable, and the odds don't get really, really tanked by midseason, which I'm kind of frightened about, maybe we will bump up to 1 unit, but for the time being, 0.6. I'm slightly bumped up to 0.6 today. So Cedric Mullins, Adley Rutzman, Ryan Mountcastle, each over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs.
Love it. So to kind of get my first play out, I have 3 plays. One I already gave out, 2 I haven't yet, but they're the same odds last I checked before the show. First one I'm on is a little experimental, not experimental, but it's a little adventurous. It's plus 125 on MGM. But
Nice.
I took Bryce. I texted you about this earlier. I took Bryce Elder,
Oh yeah.
5 strikeouts and a win. I mean, I would take this at anything plus money. And watching the Braves Padres game last night, um, I kind of whispered to myself saying, wow, I need to ban the Braves from ever doing anything ever because their offense is gone. Like, what happened to their offense the last few games? But like, I'm swallowing my pride and my hatred for this team because they did let me down once already this year. But I am going to back the Braves because this is a perfect Brian versus the Book storm in a PPD market. You have a great strikeout friendly ump. If you use Swish Analytics for
We're even getting into
strikeouts,
the umps here. This
yeah,
is
he's at 1 point, I think
can't beat this.
16 K rate when seeing when he's umping. So like do you ever use Swish Analytics? They show the K rate boost.
I peeked at it sometimes. I don't look at it every
It's
day.
pretty good stuff. You gotta check
Not a
your
bad
umps,
idea
man.
though.
Yeah,
That's
I
next
mean,
level analysis.
I will say that's the only reason I get upset with certain calls where I always check the ump. And if it's like a guy that calls a lot of, lower or higher balls, and then I get the shit end of the stick where they're not calling it for me, that's the only time I get a little upset.
Fair
But
enough.
I like the ump in this game. Plus, you get there's 3 things: the ump, the fact that the Braves are coming off 3 losses as a better team. I love a bounce back in a new series,
Yep.
and I like when I take my player performance markets. I really like taking a team like the Reds, who I still don't think are as good as they're playing, and I like to take the team to fade that's coming off a big win. They came off a big win yesterday where it looked over. They scored 4 runs or 3 runs in the 9th to win it against our
Don't remind me.
terrible Phillies roster, but they're coming off a big win, traveling, playing the next day. I like the under. I mean, I like them to kind of falter here. And you get a team that did you see their lineup? Their lineup is kind of interesting today. It is a
I
28% strikeout rate against righties last year. At least the one that, if it's anything close to the projected lineup I saw. Um, you have guys like Myers, Steer, and Barrio that
they're all in.
they're all in. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have 30% strikeout rates for the most part against righties. Steer's 23.5%. But you get a lot of these guys where I know he's young, but Elder looked good last week and he destroys righties. So I think he can find 5 strikeouts in this lineup. I think he has a good chance there. And although is it Ashcraft, Acraft, whatever you pronounce this guy's name for the Reds, he
Don't
had a
ask
great.
me.
Yeah, I know you're the worst, but yeah, he had a great outing last week as well. But his 2022 season campaign, he really struggled on the road. His ERA on the road was over 5. So I like to take the Braves to figure him out in a game where he has to travel. He's not been great away from home, and I am trusting that this Braves lineup just figures it out because how long can they be this bad? That's kind of where my angle is, and I think getting plus money on this price is really nice because they are minus 200 favorites, and I think 5 strikeouts for a guy like Elder that should go 6. His outs prop is 17.5. He looked
Yeah.
really good last year. I think. Well, I mean, last start he looked like a guy that should have got the 5th spot for the Braves way earlier.
Somebody said, who did you say? So we're talking Bryce Elder.
Bryce Elder, yeah.
Versus the Braves pitcher tonight, Braves righty. Cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, especially like overachieving teams late versus a good team that's kind of underachieving, and that's an absolutely beautiful segue into my next play. Bucks and Pirates, if you will. And Astros, man, minus 180 for the Astros feels like a nice price. So I went ahead and I bit on the Framber Valdez 5Ks and a win.
That was going to be my other play. I didn't pull it. I like it a lot.
I figured if I didn't take it, you would, and vice versa. So I don't really. I mean, early season is what it is. Pirates, I think, are 6-4. Astros are 4-6. In my opinion, we can scrap all of that. I still think minus 180 is a pretty nice price here for the Astros, especially with their ace on the mound. I think that's slightly debatable, but I think you can pretty confidently call him the ace. Brian, no phone calls during the show. What the fuck, man?
It's Ashcraft. Yeah, I looked it up. I was right. The chat they're asking, it is Ashcraft. It's pronounced as said. I looked it up. I thought it was correct. I just want to make sure. Yeah, it is Ashcraft.
Love it. Awesome.
Unfortunate name for Ashcraft, but yes, keep going.
Yeah, that's tough. So the Buccos, they won 1-0 yesterday, which is kind of mind blowing. But in that one, they lost Cruz, which sucks, man. That play was kind of odd. I'm not even really going to point fingers. I don't really think it's as much as the catcher's fault, although he acted like kind of an a-hole after it happened. But
I could be a dick here, but it was a terrible slide by Cruz.
That
was a textbook bad slide. You have until the batter box to declare space. That was just a bad head-on slide. I mean, I'm not saying it's his fault he got hurt or that, but that was a terrible slide by him.
Yeah. So it feels like the Astros are struggling mightily. And they're not great. They're 4-6, but they're averaging 4.7 runs a game, and that's pretty damn good. Rosie Contreras will be on the mound for Pittsburgh. Pretty solid pitcher, but he's primarily a fastball that's going to sit around 95, and he's primarily slider that's going to sit around 83, and that's going to make up about 90% of the pitches that'll throw tonight. At least historically, that's been the case. And the Astros' big bats have a ton of success against those types of pitches versus right-handed pitchers. So I think the Astros bats can kind of, if you will, wake up, even though they're not even doing that bad. And then they have their ace on the mound. Framber, they're actually 0-2 in his starts this season, but he has a 1.5 ERA. So it's like it hasn't really been his fault. And this feels like a nice spot to finally kind of get into that win column. He worked up to 103 pitches last game, so he's a full go. As far as Pittsburgh's lineup, it's actually fairly respectable for K's. They're kind of middle of the pack. But there's some nice targets in this lineup. I don't really think Framber has too much trouble getting to 5 strikeouts. There's going to be 6 guys with a 21% or higher K rate. There's 4 guys 24% or higher, and 2 of those guys are around 35% K rate. So I don't think he has too much trouble getting these 5 Ks. And then after that point, we're just sweating Astros money line versus the Pirates, which I feel pretty good about. So went ahead and took this. This is minus 110 on DraftKings at the time of taking it. I haven't double checked in a little while, but one of the beautiful things about PPDs is they don't often move too much. So should get fairly similar odds. It was minus 115 on FanDuel when I was about to take it earlier today. So should have about the same juice on it.
I really hate that you played it. Thank you. I really hate that you played it because I was really looking into that. I was 100% looking into that. I think it's a great play. I think my biggest thing is I find it so hard to take 2 player performance doubles in the same night because it's hard sometimes for all the chalk to kind of get back by the same person. So I usually like to choose, and I went with the one that was plus 125. I think. I don't have a tinfoil hat. I try not to, but the fact that 5 and a win is so playable is so freaking me out. I think it's a great spot, though. I probably will tell you because I think it's a great play. If it wasn't for me being on Seesaw already and having 4 plays already in the same slate, I would have definitely taken it. But I will revisit that because I think it's a good play. I was very close to pulling it. So is Prop Bet Guy. He might still take it, but I think it's a good play.
It is like painfully chalky. But I mean, honestly, I haven't really hesitated to take the painfully chalky PPDs this year and just been killing it. So
I got a little, it doesn't help that I have a little bit of disdain in my head that I took the last time we were on the show. I took the Hunter Brown PPD and they lost to the Tigers in extra innings. Kind of has a bad taste in my mouth still. That's
a tough one.
Yeah, I think you were on that too. You had some kind of parlay with it, but yeah, that was rough. Not to get into it because it'll be a 14-minute conversation, but it still kills me to this day that we're in 2023 with this extra inning ghost runner rule, and teams that are at home still do not bump the runner over when it's tied. That's what happened with the Astros last week. The top of the 10th, Tigers had no runs in the top of the 10th, and the bottom of the 10th, the Astros did not bunt them over. I just hate that. You need one run. Put your pride aside. You literally just need to get 2 contact outs, a bunt and a contact out, and you win the game. And
Yeah.
you still have guys swing away. I just always think that's really interesting. That if you're in the bottom half of the order, you just got to find a way to bring them home, and people don't.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Let's not turn this into a 15-minute conversation.
Neither here nor there. Someone in the chat, I forget who it was, mentioned that they don't trust the Mets ever. Well, I am trusting the Mets, and they let me down this weekend. They let me down this weekend. In particular, Francisco Lindor, he let me down big time. I took Trevor Rogers under in strikeouts, and he struck out twice against Trevor Rogers. Thought it was very interesting that the guy with like a 16% strikeout rate couldn't hit the guy that everyone was kind of walking or hitting off of. So that was very frustrating.
Yeah.
But I don't know if do you know my play is? Do you know
what it is? So.
Can you guess what it is? You can guess.
No, just go ahead.
I took Yu Darvish under 5.5 strikeouts.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry. The writing was all over the wall there.
I was trying to say
doing three things at once and got distracted.
The Mets don't like to be courteous. They have not put out a lineup yet, but the projected lineup that I have in front of me is the ideal one. I would hope they put out. I actually like Yu Darvish. If you followed me last year, I was kind of the king of playing Yu Darvish PPDs at home. He just cruised at home. He would always go 7 innings. He would always get his 6 strikeouts. He'd always have good home outings, but he's a little bit shakier on the road. And I don't know if you watched his game last week against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We were talking about it, about how his strikeouts look so good at plus money, and he just kind of looked awful. It's kind of crazy the short memory people have. I think Yu Darvish over 6.5 strikeouts, over 5.5 strikeouts. I've seen it a lot on Twitter. I've seen it a lot on my timeline, and I think people have a short-term memory because he looked bad last week. He was not missing bats. He was not getting ahead of counts. Like all the things that make Yu Darvish great, he was not last week.
Yeah.
Not sure it has too much to do with it, but he did not have a spring. He did do the World Baseball Classic, but he didn't have a spring, and like that kind of like can have effect on people. And my thing here is I was looking into it. He was a 25% strikeout man last year. His first 2 months, the April, May, it took him a while to get going. Just 22.5% in those first 2 months, first few starts. So his strikeout rate took a while to get going. And his splits last year, he had a 21.8% strikeout rate against righties, 29% against lefties. And if you don't know the Mets stack a lot of right-handed batters. They usually have 7. The only guys that are lefties that you should see in this lineup would be Nemo probably. Like Nemo would probably play. I always call him Nemo, but yeah, Nemo would probably play first or later in the lineup. But yeah, is the lineup out yet?
Yeah, there's all lineups right here.
Oh, so did they put it out? Because like before the show, they didn't have it out yet. So that was that more recently. So where's he batting?
Number 1.
Okay, I figured. So yeah, but he's a 15% strikeout rate guy against righties. He should be fine. The only guy I'm worried about is Danny Burgers. Is Danny Burgers in the lineup?
Mm-mm.
See, that's perfect.
I'll rattle off real quick. We go Nimmo, Lindor, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, Daniel Vogelback, Mark Canha, Gilmore. That's not how you say it. Don't look at me for pronunciation. Escobar and Nito.
I like that.
Yelmore.
That's perfect. So my philosophy with unders is I usually wait for lineups, but this is when I wanted to hop on for the show. They didn't have the lineup out before the show. But yeah, not a lot of lefties if based on what you just rattled off. And that's kind of where Darvish eats him up. On the season so far, the Mets are only striking out an 18% rate against righties. And although their offense hasn't been great, I just really like this under because they are putting the ball in play at a crazy high rate. You're talking this lineup has a 19% strikeout rate against righties last year and then 18% this year. So I really think that you're going to see some some trouble with missing bats in this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this lineup's great. Yeah, no, I like this. The lefties that he will see, there's more lefties than I was thinking, but yeah, the only lefties is McNeil. Yeah, all the lefties he'll see are like 15 or less percent strikeout rate. So I do like this one a lot. I think
Yeah.
people have short term memory loss where they forget what it looks like last year. If you look at his split against the Mets career wise, Yu Darvish destroys the Mets. But I don't look at career splits as much as I look at matchups in this given game, and I think he's going to struggle given the lineup that we see here.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question earlier. Do you like Daniel Vogelback for a stolen base today?
Probably steals 4. Danny Burgers.
Danny Burgers. You know, it's funny. You called him Danny Burgers earlier, and I said, no, he's not in the lineup.
Yeah.
Clean over my head.
Oh, it's Stu. Okay, that Stu's the one in here that that's saying no Mets. But yeah, I don't like the Mets offense in terms of production, but their contact has been great. So I do like this under. I would take it up to -115. Last time I checked, it was -108 on like Sugar House, those kind of books. I like this one a lot.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, I guess we could call this my final play, and then I'll talk about one that I'm not sure what to do. We'll figure that out perhaps on air. I'm going to go with Sandy Alcantara over 20.5 outs. This actually dropped a little bit, but it's still playable -125 on DraftKings. I think I got it -110, maybe 115. Yeah, 115 at the time I took it. Still taking it at -125. It's Sandy. I'm not really big into trends, but I do really like trends for outs for some reason. And it doesn't really get much better than Sandy's trends dating back to last year. He's over in 68% of his games. He's coming off a complete game last one. So this guy's just built different, man. I don't even need to get too in detail. But I guess I will anyway. So the Marlins bullpen is just gassed right now. So their past 3 starters were Braxton Garrett went 4 2/3, Trevor Rogers went 4 2/3, Edward Cabrera went 2 2/3. So and they haven't had a day off, so they go right into this game. This is happy Marlins bullpen rest day as far as I'm concerned. They might not even need to warm up a guy with the way Alcantara can pitch. So if you're not as familiar with what,
so we saw last week, complete game.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not as familiar with baseball lingo or wondering what the hell we're actually betting here, we need him to pitch 7 innings or more, which it sounds like a lot. That for most guys, I wouldn't even consider that. For Sandy, this is this is his norm. This isn't really any problem. When I look in this Phillies lineup, it's just, man, I kind of shiver a little bit because coming into the season, I loved our lineup even without Bryce in theory, and then we lost Hall, we lost Hoskins, and now the bottom 4 of our lineup is Marsh, Cave, Clemens, and Stubbs, and just not great. I do like Bryson Stott at number 1. Trey Turner obviously is terrific, but there's just nobody's really striking fear in me here. And Sandy is he's as solid as they come in. He's just been fucking phenomenal for a long time, and 7 innings really isn't much for him. Now, with that said, I've debated strikeouts all day. Don't mind my cat. Go away, buddy. I've debated his strikeouts all day. I actually really like his strikeouts with this lineup. I mean, Schwarber's 29%, Castellanos is 26, Marsh is 32, Cave is 26, Clemens is 25, and Stubbs is 27. So struggled with this one. Struggled to go to decide which direction to go in. If you like the strikeout avenue, I am not mad at you, especially because you're going to get it at better odds than we'll get these outs. But I don't know. I guess I'm a little frightened that he hasn't really gotten the strikeouts so far early this season. But we've seen Sandy get as high as I think 14 at one point last year. So he doesn't always he's not like Cease that he'll go 0-2 and then just bury pitch after pitch trying to get people to chase. He just wants to get fucking out. So sometimes
Sandy's efficient.
Yeah. So he will be a breath of fresh air, especially if you tailed the Cease play earlier and had to live through that misery. Sandy should be a breath of fresh air. There's nobody as efficient as this guy. So all in all, Sandy Alcantara over 20.5 outs. If you do have BetMGM, I would advise peeking over there, making sure they don't have a better line for it, because they very well might.
Yeah, I think that's a good play there. Alcantara always seemed the Phillies, as a fan, as you know, Phillies fans here, we always seem to play Alcantara. We never seem to avoid him in any series. It's always kind of frustrating. But yeah, he has good success. I know Prop Bet Guy took his under and strikeouts. I like the under and strikeouts. in theory, but the Phillies swing at everything right now with garden hoses.
Yeah, man,
But yeah,
it's tough.
he should have good success just getting through. And he's a guy. I mean, he's Cy Young. I mean, he's a guy that he earns the right to kind of go at his own pace. You see guys, not saying he should, but you see guys like Garrett Cole wave off Boone or wave off managers. So certain guys in their respective roles have that, power. And Sandy's at the point where even if he kind of gets bumped a little bit or roughed up a little bit, he does have the power to kind of, tell people when he's ready to go out. So I think he's a safe bet to go for 7 innings. Even earlier in the
Yeah.
year when we just saw him go a full 9. So I like that.
Yeah, not too long ago, a good 5 days ago. So
Good
yeah,
5
like I
days
said,
ago.
this is
On
happy
100 pitches
Marlins
exactly.
rest day. Yeah, he's incredible, man. And I'm gonna harp on one quick thing. We'll talk a little NBA. I don't have any plays. I don't believe Brian does, and eventually my cat will get the fuck away from me, bro. Go away. I want to harp on one thing real quick. I'm actually going to slightly trash FanDuel a little bit. If you're betting baseball and you're only on FanDuel, I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but you should change that. Oftentimes I'm finding the worst odds possible on FanDuel, the least amount of markets of pretty much any book on the
They don't offer outs
market.
either, yeah.
Yeah. That's what kind of triggered me is that somebody asked, does FanDuel offer outs? They don't offer stolen bases. They don't offer half the shit that DraftKings offers. And they're one of the only books that does not void non-starters. So if you bet a guy on offense and he doesn't start that day, comes in, pinch hits,
Skeeter
goes 0 for
Beavers,
1.
the same thing. We need 365 in PA. 365 would be great in PA. Would love it.
I love 365 so damn
Yeah.
much, especially for basketball. That is a terrific basketball book. I haven't found too many advantageous lines on, or as many on as sorry, goodness gracious. I forgot how to talk at this time. I haven't found as many advantageous lines on 365 for baseball outside of stolen bases, but it's a great book. But if you're only on FanDuel and you have options to not be,
have it as an option because sometimes
please dabble in more books.
Someone here says you always gotta shop around. That's our guy. But yeah, use Pickett Sports. I mean, that's a weird plug for our sponsor, but yeah, if you have Pickett, they link to all your books, and it really is so easy to show. If you like a line, you can just click on this Pickett app, and it shows you all the lines. So I think it's great. So
yeah,
kind of parlays or segues into my other play where I took Julio Urias over 5.5 strikeouts against the Giants, and I got it at minus 136 on FanDuel, but looking at Pickett Sports, it is actually minus 180, minus 170, minus 175. A lot of juice places now, but it is minus 140 on BetMGM if you shop around with Pickett Sports. I have the fair odds at minus 170. I was shocked to see a guy with this caliber get a 5.5 line against this Giants lineup. If you were not hip to it, I played Bubic yesterday, who is a boob. He was the fade of the year last year with Corbin. He was really terrible. He looks good, though. He looks good to start the year. Big improvement. Love him. I took him for 5 strikeouts. He had 9.
Yeah, man.
This Giants lineup against lefties is almost doesn't seem real. I mean, it's still short sample size to start this season, but they have a 41% strikeout rate against lefties.
Insane, dude.
If you're not good at math, that is like nearly half the at-bats they face. I don't care if the sample size is 40, 50, 60, 70, 100. Like, that is unreal. I mean, their lineup today, they have it out, but let me just check. But I have it pulled up here just to make sure my math is right. Their lineup against all hitters, yeah, you're looking at like a 25% strikeout rate, but you have 4 guys with 30% or more. So, like, you're gonna get, if you're a lefty against this lineup, I will automatically look. Someone said in the chat too, just to harp on it, they said FanDuel is up to 6.5. I did put this out earlier because I figured it would move to 6.5, but as I said, MGM has it minus 140, and I love it at minus 140. I would play up to minus 150, but yeah, I figured this is one I got out earlier because despite it being a little juicy, I think it was just one I was surprised to see at 5.5, and I knew it'd move. So MGM is low lagged. The one book I think you should have if you're not limited to too much is MGM in baseball because sometimes they're just so slow on these fast movements for strikeout props.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, talk about Conforto. him against lefties or against anybody, he's swinging a garden hose. You see like Davis, Villar, like all these guys. I mean, they look lost at the plate. So getting this at 5.5 for a pitcher that has gone 6 innings in his last 2 starts. And last year he played the Giants 3 times on the road. He had 6 at least in all 3 starts. I think he had 13 in one of them or 12. Is that correct? I don't have my notes in front of me, but yeah,
I'll need a second, but I can get you.
no. I don't have my notes in front of me, sorry, but he crushed the Giants last year. And there's not much more to say about this. If you are a left-handed pitcher and you're going against this Giants lineup, at the very least, you'll get me to write you on my big board before I go to bed. That's usually what I do. I write down all the spots I like and I research them in the morning. If you're lefty against this team, I will at least look at you because they are just not producing against lefties. They are swinging and missing at a crazy high rate. And it's kind of embarrassing, but it's kind of nice if you're playing against them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So he actually had several starts for San Fran. First one
5
was
last year.
Yeah, he went 4, 10, 4, 10, 5, 6, 8. 4, 10, 5, 6, 8. So pretty good success. And this lineup is a much different beast than last year's lineup, and I don't mean that in a positive manner. I guess I do.
Yeah, I mean,
I do for the bet, I guess.
I will say this against righties, this Giants lineup can still kind of produce. We saw it a few days ago when they played. Who was the guy that hit around for a while? Why can't I think of it? They had a good game, but I forget who was like the
Yeah, they hit
popular.
a couple They had 6 homers in one game not that long ago.
Yeah, no, they played well. They can still produce against righties, but yeah, I guess like, I mean, I'll just read it off. They're 1-9. The lineup is confirmed now. Their 1-9 strikeout rate last year against lefties is a combined 27.7%. I mean, they took Conforto out, which is big. He's a big strikeout guy.
Yeah.
But then you replace guys with like that with Johnson, who's a 37% guy, Joey Bart, 42% last year and 100 at bats against lefties. Davis, 34%. Villar, 32%. Like, yeah, you have guys at the start of the order like Flores and Estrada that don't strike out much, and then after that, the floodgates are just open. I mean, they're bad. It's like they try to combat this a little bit by taking Conforto, some other guys out, but my goodness, their 3 to 9 hitters have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 guys in the final 6 spots with 29.5% or higher against lefties last year.
Pretty good.
So it's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
And we're asking for 1 per inning.
Yeah, it's not much. Somebody's putting 10,000. Are you saying you're putting $10,000 on the Padres tonight?
No. I would say this. It depends on your
not
unit size.
In the chat.
No, I know. I saw it in the chat.
Oh,
I'm saying it
Making
depends on your unit size.
Yeah,
the Mets don't strike out, but they don't really hit the ball well either. A lot of weak contact, but
this has me sweating a little bit. I don't know how the fuck to answer this question. I'm not built to give advice on $10,000 bets. I'm gonna pass on this one, my friend. I'm gonna wish you a ton of luck.
I will say it depends on unit size. I mean, if your unit size is $5,000 and that's a 2-unit play, sure, go for it. But so Matt McAfee says never be big meat Pete. It's true. I mean, Pete Alonso. But yeah, I do think
meat Pete.
I think it's very tough to talk advice in betting if you use dollar amounts. If you speak on units, that's very different.
Yeah, for sure. I think that pretty much caps off baseball. There was one thing. I mean, I don't really have anywhere to take this, I guess. I'm so torn. I guess I'll just ask your opinion, even though I don't value it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Luis Castillo is driving me fucking crazy because I can't decide between the PPD and Ks.
6.5 is so tough. I think 6.5 is
tough.
I think 6.5 is like the epitome of holy shit, what do I do? Because 6.5, you almost just want to like take the under automatically for a guy that's going 6. And then you look at the lineups and you look at the guys they're facing and you're like, okay, well, that's tough. So 6 and a win might be the move if that's what you're looking at. I saw a lot of love for the first 5 for the Mariners, the Marineros. But yeah, Drew Smiley against Castillo, I totally understand why people are flocking to the Mariners here. It's just
Yeah.
it's a better offense, it's a better pitching matchup. I mean, sometimes, so I guess here's my thing. Are the Texas Rangers at minus 180 a better matchup than minus 150 for Castillo and the Mariners in this one? I don't know.
I don't
Like,
think so, dude. Not against
yeah,
Drew Smiley.
baseball prices are really strange at times, and I think minus 150 or the PPD like you mentioned, not a bad look because Castillo, like I think he shoves. He's a pitcher I like a lot. He's kind of no bullshit. You talk about Dylan Cease getting to 0-2, and then he falls in love with the slider and he ends up hitting the guy in the face. Castillo is not like that. He kind of just gives you efficient innings. And against this Cubs team, I think he can have a really good outing. So I do like
Yeah.
that PPD. I gave it a look, but like I said, there's too many plays I like on the slate. I'll take it my 4 and I'll just go home. Hopefully I
Yeah.
don't go broke.
I don't blame you there. Excuse me. There's been, at least dating back a couple seasons, the top 6 guys in the Marlins lineup have been really good against lefties. Granted, their team average so far against lefties collectively is 219. It's a 64 at bat sample size with 4 walks of 68 plate appearances. But I mean, the ISO numbers are pretty damn insane, especially Teoscar Hernandez, who somebody mentioned earlier for a home run, which I am not mad at all. Very good home run target pretty much anytime he faces a lefty, especially Drew Smiley at Wrigley. I'm not mad at you, but I have a pretty good feeling about this offense tonight, and I really like Castillo. I don't mind the 6.5 in this specific spot too much because, man, they loaded them up with some nice targets. But I don't know. This is just one spot that's bothering me all day. I can't decide. So stay tuned for when I do decide and pick the wrong one later, I guess. It's going to be rough.
This guy in the chat, McAfee, I don't know how to pronounce it. McAfee. He says he put 10K on Castillo's 10K ladder. So that's a good little cute thing. In the chat, we will end the baseball talk, but we're going back to the Padres. You're getting called out for not giving a straight answer about the Padres. I think Ryan,
is that right?
as my co-host, I don't think he's necessarily saying he's not giving a straight answer. I think he's just not trying to give financial advice about how much you should bet on a team that he's not necessarily 100% convinced on, because I know about you, I bet mostly player props. I don't hate the Padres tonight, but it is interesting that they are on the road and they are coming off a 3-game win streak against a big series. So that's the only word I have is maybe a letdown spot. But yeah, I don't hate the Padres at all. I just don't know if I'd go max play on anything. I don't like to bet money line as much on baseball than other sports because
not too much.
It gets a little, at least not straight with the.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, the main thing is I just don't really see too much of an edge, especially to bet that much money. I mean, it's a decent look. I'm not mad at the look. Don't get me wrong. Max Scherzer is maybe age is caught up to him. Maybe it's just early season blues, but we'll see. I don't see an edge here enough to warrant that level of bet. And I don't bet anywhere close to that level. So I'm perhaps just not the best guy to ask, but yeah, Brian stepped up and said, put 15 grand on it. So that's good.
Yeah, it's good. Now I will say I will root for the Padres now, but can we get contact out for the Mets? That's all I ask for. I don't like Darvish's strikeouts. I like his under in strikeouts. Because like I said, the Mets, they're not making hard contact, but they're putting the ball in play. That's half the battle, but they are not putting it together yet. I honestly, as a Phillies fan, I root for the Mets to falter every single time. But let's just do it. Let's do it with some contact. So moving on to NBA, I was talking to Joe Delera, our friend that I think you are familiar with as well.
Absolutely.
Lines started to come out a little bit more before the show, but they weren't really out until later in the day. I weirdly like the look he's on, which is Domantas Sabonis over 12.5 rebounds against King Loon and the Warriors tomorrow. I haven't looked at it too much, but he texted me about it before the show that he jumped on it as soon as it opened. He has crushed the Warriors, so I do think the Warriors struggle in the interior, so that's a play I like. But I was thinking we could maybe just talk an overarching thing about the playoffs and not more specific stuff. I just want to mention that. I do like Sabonis' rebounds a lot.
I don't have any plays, so yeah, I'm all in. I guess just a little background. So tomorrow we'll get the 7-8 game. The winner of that game is automatically slotted into the 7. The loser of this game goes on to play the winner of the 9-10 game. Whoever loses the 9-10 game just goes straight home. So if you're not as familiar, what is this, year 3 of the play?
Yes,
Right?
I believe.
Okay. So still fairly fresh, but I just wanted to give a little background onto what exactly we're looking at here. I hated the thought of it when it first was talked about. I fucking love it. I think it's a really cool idea. These games are awesome. These are going to be electric games. For betting purposes more so, we should see some really tight rotation. So I like that. So what's up?
No, they have like all the props out for these Saturday's games that I was talking about. That's crazy.
Damn. They're not fucking around. Good on them. I like that.
Damn, Joel Embiid, 34.5. That is a rough line if you wanted to support him. I was looking to do that, but yeah,
I still might even take that too. These rotations are going to get tight. So we're not going to see Montrezl Harrell probably at all. We might get 10 minutes of Paul Reed and 38 from Joel, I think is pretty reasonable to anticipate. So while we're getting a 2-ish point higher line than we're used to, we should
keep that in mind, especially if you're like me and you bail out unders. These rotations get so tough that these lines get inflated, but you're not seeing their normal minutes most of the time. You're seeing, unless it's like a blowout. That's the only thing is that if we get up against the Nets, the first thing we want to do is to rest Joel. But yeah, these get some tighter lines, some higher rotation guys.
For sure.
Oh man, this is awesome. I didn't realize all these lines are out. But Mikal Bridges 26.5. He might put up 28 against the Sixers, even if they lose. He's a guy that will play 42 minutes in this series.
So exhausted of betting on it. He shot so fucking bad this month. It drove me insane. But I don't know. I guess just more so what's your outlook? So tomorrow specifically, we got Hawks at the Heat. We have Timberwolves at the Lakers. Timberwolves created themselves a hell of a mess on the last day of the season. So that'll be so freaking interesting. Their best perimeter defender, perhaps the most important player in this damn series, punched a wall and broke his damn hand. So now LeBron gets free reign versus a guy with the nickname Slow-Mo and whoever the hell else they try to defend him with. So that'll be really interesting. I guess they'll start Luka Garza at 5. I don't know, man. That game could be a little bit of a mess. Lakers are 7.5 point favorites, which is pretty substantial for a game of this magnitude. I thought it, I think without all the nonsense, it would probably be pretty damn close. But I don't know. Do you see any way the Timberwolves can pull this one off?
I mean, they might be better without Gobert. So
I ain't mad at you there.
My thing is that as a Lakers guy that roots against the Lakers often, they have so much good momentum their way that I don't know if I can like 7.5, but I do lean the Lakers. If I had to pick a cover, I would lean there. But yeah, this should be a good game to watch. I think the other thing that's interesting is that in the other game, I think both these games would be fun to watch, but the Heat own the Hawks usually, and I just don't know if the Timberwolves have enough, especially after the turmoil yesterday. I know we make jokes about Rudy Gobert being out, but they are. Can you really back a team that just had a fight inside their own locker room on the bench?
It's pretty tough. Maybe it hypes them up. Who knows? A minute ago, I'm an idiot. Of course, Cat's going to play the 5 and Slow-Mo will be the 4. I don't know what I was talking about. Don't mind me. But yeah, I don't know. Part of me wonders if it maybe hypes them up enough and we see something crazy. But I mean, just generally speaking, the Lakers, I loved their deadline, even though I don't like the Lakers. I don't necessarily cheer for them, but I think they did a terrific job at this deadline. The team's created a nice team that can be poised to make somewhat of a run. I don't know if they're championship level, but they have LeBron and AD and 2 guys that have done it before. So they're going to be a tough 7 seed.
I agree. I think that's a game I need to dive into more for props. But the other game, I don't know if I could dive too much into it, but man, some books, it's actually really juice, but Trae Young at 24.5 points, minus 110. How do you
under, right?
How do you not at least look at that under? Have you ever seen anyone in the chat? Have you seen his game logs against the Heat? I don't know what the Heat. I mean, how like Joel Embiid mentioned that Nick Nurse doesn't look to win games; he just looks to shut down stars. there's some of the Heat where I don't know if Trae Young did something to them, but whenever they play Trae Young, it's like Spo's like one objective is to make sure Trae Young shoots like 1 for 19.
Yeah,
They play him
and
so
they
tight.
and they get it too
They
usually.
get it. He's really struggled against the Heat his entire career. I mean, do you remember the playoff game last year? The series, he went off, I think the game one, he scored 28 or 29. And then the rest of the series, he got shut down so hard.
Yeah,
Yes, he played Hawks 4 times a season. They see him often. Yeah, they see him often, and Trae Young does not do much. And also, there was trade reports out for Trae Young before the play even started. So it's kind of a crazy scenario. But yeah, I was actually kind of hoping we'd get 25 and a half. But
yeah. He averages 19.8 on 35.6% shooting against the Heat in those 4 games. So pretty bad. I mean,
yeah, someone said that
cover
Young
this
has
guy.
burned him, but I will find. I would probably find at least if I want to consider it, a Trae Young under at some point in my bet slip. Which is funny because it's not even like he dimes well against him. You'd think if he's not scoring, he dimes really well against them, but they really just kind of shut him down a lot in every sense of the word.
Yeah, my mind kind of gravitated towards Murray, DeJounte Murray in this series, as
Yeah,
far as like his overs, but even he hasn't had that much success. But I was thinking if they put so much focus on slowing down Trae, it might kind of open up avenues. And he's been okay. At 18 and a half points is what he averages in those against the Heat. But one thing I think will be interesting with Murray is I wouldn't be surprised if he runs 44 minutes tomorrow. Like he might play that entire game. So one of the first lines that jumped out to me was that 19 and a half. He's not the most efficient guy, shoots a lot of mid-range, doesn't make a lot of threes, doesn't get to the line as much as you'd hope for. So his over 19 and a half is a lot more of a sweat than it is with most guys this kind of
yeah,
volume. But that was kind of the first one I gravitated towards because this guy really might play damn near the whole game. And obviously, like you
yeah.
mentioned, is so determined to slow down Trae.
Yeah, I think we can end this show without the pick of popular plays because we're running a little late. But we'll end it on this hypothetical. McAfee in the chat says, "I heard the premise the other day. Which, if you had the number one overall pick this year, would you trade it for Luka Doncic?"
Good Lord.
And my answer is like, I think it's like a hard no. So I'm not a Luka hater, but I hate Luka. And no, I don't hate Luka, but my thing is I said it before like a while ago where it just, I think Luka is just one of those guys where, I don't want to make this comparison because it sounds like I'm a hater, but it kind of reminds me a lot of the James Harden days when he was a Rocket where he puts up crazy numbers and but his field goal volume is really high. He plays a lot of ISO ball and I said it last year that with Jalen Brunson, their offensive defensive rating was a lot better with Brunson running the point than Luka. So Luka's just one of those guys that's an all-time talent. He's played with guys like Brunson or like Tingus Pingus or this and that. But like you're not, I mean, they missed the playoffs this year. Like, like he's such an unworldly talent, but it hasn't translated to the Mavs winning per se. And I think it's hard to give up one of these potential slam dunk or like once in a lifetime picks for that. I think it's like saying like, not like he's LeBron's level, but that number one pick, like Wembley's like going to be like one of those guys where like how do you not take him or like take the chance on him no matter what you're offered at the number one pick? Like, what's a package that would realistically get a team to say no, we're not going to take a chance on this guy that's been the biggest hype train ever?
Dude, who the hell knows? That's a good question. I saw something. It was one of the more interesting quotes I've seen in a while, and it's like somebody mentioned that Luka's trending towards Carmelo Anthony territory. Like
That was Colin Cowherd, and
that's right. That's right. It was
it's
Colin.
bold to take those stances, but like I don't want to say I agree with them, but like you get to the
I
point where it's
don't
like
hate it.
yeah, it's closer to true than it should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm right. That's a perfect way to describe it. It was it caught me off guard. I'm like, hold on, we can't do this. And then I thought about it. It's like, holy fuck, man. He's like, I mean, it makes you think of it. I mean, we've never really seen him enter the season like in shape, and there's so much ISO ball. There's limited effort on defense. He even made excuses for his defense the other day. I think we talked
Yeah,
about that last show, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah,
just interesting stuff. How the narrative changed big time on Luka. I never heard anybody say a negative word about him, pretty much except for you.
yeah. I've been
this year.
I've been kind of on the Luca not hype train for like 3 years, and it's not like I hope people realize when I talk about this, I'm not trying to hate on Luca. My thing is that if I had to start a team tomorrow as a general manager, I don't know if Luca would be in my top 10 to pick to start a franchise. Maybe 8.
I think he's still young enough. I would have to have him in that top 10.
I would say 8 or 9. I think there's a lot of talent out there, and it sounds like a bold take, but that's where that's where I'll end the show. You give your opinion, but that's where I'm ending the show here.
That's interesting. I would actually, I think we should bring this back up in a different show. It's just who would be the top 10 guys, because I got to sit down and think about that one a little bit. Yeah, McAfee reiterated. I think we did a little bit of beating around the bush. So you would both trade him for Wemby. So this is from Mark Cuban's standpoint. I'm taking it. I'd keep Luka Doncic. He's so young. We've seen what he's capable of doing, which has its ups and downs, I suppose. But Wemby's still got to come into the league. He's still got to try to stay healthy. He's still got to become a star, which obviously the writing's on the wall. He should, but we've seen plenty of other guys that should be stars not turn out. We know what Luka is right now.
Yeah.
That mystery with Wemby is, although fairly minimal, it's still enough for me. I'm sticking with Luka. I'm going to see if he can figure it out. I'm not sure we found the perfect Robin for Luka yet. This has actually been a discussion I've had with my buddies for a couple years now. Is who would be the perfect Robin for Luka? I don't really fucking know. Apparently it's not.
I mean, they've tried everything. So that's my only thing, is that they've tried multiple things. It's always like, oh, he has no talent around him. And then it's like, oh man, if only they can get like a good PNR big. Didn't they have that? Like, I don't know.
Brunson and Porzingis is so funny to look back on now, because it's just like, yeah, Luka has no help. And like, dude, he had a pretty decent amount of help. Granted, Brunson hadn't evolved to what he is now, and Porz, definitely had a smaller role. But I don't know. I could talk about this all day, so I suppose we ought to wrap up. But
we'll wrap up.
That's really interesting. I'm keeping Luka.
I will say this. I'll answer McAfee's question directly. This is going to be the worst answer of all time. If I'm Mark Cuban, I do not trade Luka, because the ramifications on that would be crazy. But if I am somebody else, I do not pass on Wembanyama. So it's like weird. It's like two double negatives. If I'm Mark Cuban, I can't make that choice because of how it would look on you. But if I'm another team, I could not trade this one pick for anybody, let alone like anybody else. Yeah. So I think
take on both GM perspectives and kind of.
There's so much red tape around it, and that's how I'm going to end the show. To end it, let's get with the picks. I took on this fine MLB slate.
Yes, sir.
I have Julio Urias over 5.5 strikeouts. It's still available, -140 on MGM. I also took Bryce Elder, 5 strikeouts and a win. Got that +125 on DraftKings or MGM. If you can find it anywhere plus money, I am all for it. I'm fading the Reds today. And then I took Yu Darvish under 5.5 strikeouts against the Mets. -108 on Cammy Books. It was -105 on MGM when I last checked, but I'm not sure where it is. So that's my 3 plays.
Awesome, man. I'm going to run an Orioles stack. I'm going to play Cedric Mullins, Adley Rutzman, and Ryan Mountcastle all over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. I also ran Framber Valdez, 5 strikeouts and a win. And that's on DraftKings, as is the Orioles stack. Sorry. And then I ran Sandy Alcantara. This is also a DraftKings play, but I do peek into MGM real quick just to make sure they don't have better odds. But I went Sandy Alcantara over 20.5 outs. But yeah, that'll wrap up. As usual, I had an absolute blast on the show. If you tuned in, thank you. If you tuned in and chatted with us in the chat, thank you. Thank you to Pickett and Boom for sponsoring us. And happy Monday. Let's go have a nice slate.
Let's do it.